Hello students, welcome to KENE'S Educare, a group of KENE solutions. This is part 3 of lesson number 14, Natural Resources. So as we are on to part 3 now, the part 1 was the introductory lesson where I told you what are the basic things that we are going to study in this lesson, natural resources, right? And after that part 1, in the part 2, we started studying exactly about nature. We studied about atmosphere, and we even studied that on Earth we have lithosphere, hydrosphere, and there's one more sphere which is that atmosphere. So lithosphere is the land area that is available on the Earth, hydrosphere is water, and atmosphere is air, right? Then after discussing on this, we started our discussion on air, that is about the atmosphere. So now we know that air is a mixture of gas. It has 78% of nitrogen, 21% of oxygen, and rest are the other gases like carbon dioxide, argon. Okay, so this is what you should be knowing about air, and then we discussed on how exactly our air is getting deteriorated, right? Like we will be studying about air pollution today in short, and then we will be starting about water. So before I proceed with this part of the lesson number 14, like before I proceed with part 3, I want each one of you to please revise whatever notes you have taken in part 1 as well as in part 2, because all the notes that you're taking in is very important. I'm teaching you starting from the scratch. So if you are writing it and attending all the videos, if you're viewing all the videos, you know each and every concept, you know each and every term. Okay, so please start revising whatever notes you have taken in part 1 and part 2. I hope every one of you have started revising it. I already gave you a short summary on whatever we had discussed so far in part 2, right? So now it will be easier for you to remember, and according to me, it's the easiest one to remember and to explain as well. Once you know what exactly has been given, the meaning of the terms, you will be easily able to write the answers on them. Okay? Okay, so I hope now every one of you have understood whatever you have taken in your book and whatever we have discussed in the last class. I'm going to show you all the slides one by one. Okay, please revise it thoroughly. So I hope every one of you are going with through this slide that is on resources on the earth. And over here we discussed on the three spheres that like biosphere has total three spheres in it. That is lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere. Okay. After this resources on the earth, we discussed on air, which has also been known as atmosphere. And over here we have the composition of air because as discussed, air is a mixture of gases, right? So it has different types of gases like nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water vapor, and there are other gases which have been present. Okay. I hope you all are going through it. See, the air composition that they have explained is also important, because you can get direct question that this much percentage of what is the percentage of nitrogen present in air, what is the percentage of argon present in air. So make sure you know that. Okay. After this discussing about the air which comes at the atmosphere, we even discussed on what is the exact role of atmosphere in climate control, right? So atmosphere acts as a blanket on the earth, right? Because you know that how much harmful UV radiations the earth is receiving, and we have an ozone layer which you might be studying further about ozone layer, because it is helping us from preventing those harmful UV rays from reaching the earth, right? So we discussed on the role of atmosphere in climate control, how exactly it is controlling the climate, and second thing that we discussed was the movement of air, that we know it as winds, right? So I want each one of you to please go through this slide as well. I hope you all have gone through it. After this, the we discussed on rain as well, how exactly it occurs. So we have two important processes which takes place over here. The first process out of which is evaporation, and the second process is condensation. Okay, so I want you all to please go through this slide as well, because over here the most important thing, that is on cloud formation, has been explained in detail, and the diagram that has been given is also very important. So please go through it, everyone. Now, after this, once you're done going through it and revising about the cloud formation, we will be starting with air pollution. So I want you all to be quick, everyone. See, you should be able to draw how exactly cloud formation occurs. Like, can you see the clouds have been drawn like rain, then land, overflow, evaporation, the moisture, condensation, and this is how it goes on. Okay? After this, the next thing that we have to discuss on, that is air pollution. So Now, what exactly air pollution is? See, when the air is having the normal components present in them, like 78% of nitrogen, 21% of oxygen, and the rest was carbon dioxide, argon, and all. Okay, so apart from this, if any other harmful substance is getting increased in air, that we know it as air pollution. The normal component should be present in air, but if there is something which is harmful for us and is getting added in the air, we call that as air pollution. So as you can see, the first definition, like the first sentence over where we have the definition of air pollution which has been explained, the increase in the content of harmful substances in the air is called air pollution. How will you define? Whenever harmful substances get increased in the air, we call that as air pollution. Okay, now what are the reasons for this air pollution? We all love driving, like we all love going to long tours or long drives, right? But is that good for your atmosphere? Is that good for your mother earth? Because while we are going for a long drive, we are enjoying, but the fossil fuel that we are using, which includes petroleum, we are using petrol, diesel, and all, right? So that is getting exhausted to some extent, and we know that they are non-renewable. You cannot renew this. If you remember part 1, we studied that coal and petroleum, they are non-renewable. Once you are using them, you cannot renew them again, so they are limited, and we have to use them properly. But the other disadvantage of using this coal and petroleum is that they have some amount of nitrogen and sulfur in them. So when we are burning these fuels, like either we are burning coal or we are burning petroleum, it is going to release oxides of sulfur and nitrogen. What will it release? Because it already has this nitrogen and sulfur present in them, right? So whenever we are going to burn this fuel, it is going to release some of the oxides of sulfur and nitrogen, and these oxides will go and dissolve in air and cause acid rain. Now what is acid rain? If the rain has oxides of sulfur and nitrogen present in them, we call those like oxides as acid rain. Okay, and when we are burning the fossil fuel, they also release some unburned carbon particle. Now this unburned carbon particles, they reduce the visibility. Okay, so during cold weather, now during winter you might have seen early morning when you go out, it's very different. You feel like everywhere there's you can say smoke which is present, but now we don't call that as, like we know that as smoke. So during cold weather, along with condensed water, it forms smog, and regular breathing air containing these harmful substances can cause allergies in our body. Now there are so many respiratory diseases that people are suffering from, right? Then there can be cancer, heart diseases, and there are so many health related diseases that we can have. Okay, so we have to make sure that we are controlling air pollution. Now like they haven't mentioned over here, like how can we control air pollution or how can we prevent air pollution. So it's very simple. We have to minimize the use of coal and petroleum. The fossil fuel should not be burned much and unnecessarily. Then we should keep on planting more and more trees. Then if you know the concept of carpooling, now there are certain disadvantages related to carpooling because you don't know who the other person is in the car, right? But still, this is one of the way how can we reduce the use of you can say how can we reduce the use of coal and especially petroleum, and we can ultimately reduce air pollution. Okay, then apart from that, planting of trees is one of the most important thing, and reducing the use of things and coming up with an alternative to reduce air pollution. So I want you all to please write this. I hope you all are writing about air pollution, and as I told you that the prevention part has been missing. How can we prevent air pollution? I want you all to please write that in your book as well. Like, how can we prevent air pollution? Okay. After this air pollution, the next thing that we have is about water, which is considered to be a wonder liquid, right? Now you know that like every one of you might have seen a globe, right? Now the globe has blue color all over it, and that is because water is been present on earth, right? So that blue color is of water. So a very large area of Earth's surface is covered with water. Okay, and water is also found inside the Earth, in the atmosphere as well. And in the atmosphere, water is present in the form of water vapor. Then we know that water in the sea and ocean is saline. Saline means it's going to be salty, right? So fresh water in the river, lake, ponds, and as ice and snow are the poles and mountains in cold regions, right? So water has been found in fresh water, sea, oceans, everywhere, and water has been needed by everyone, right? Is needed by all living organisms because our body is carrying out certain life processes like excretion, then respiration, and for all the cellular activities, we even need water. So the amount of water and other factors like temperature and nature of the soil, it decides the diversity of the species and the number of each individual of each species in an area. Okay, so I want you all to please go through it and write all the important points under the topic water or wonder liquid, and then we'll discuss on water pollution. See, whatever information that they have given is very basic, and according to me, each one of you can write this and can even elaborate on this more, right? I hope every one of you have written about this wonder liquid. After this, now the next thing that we have is about the water pollution. So we know that water is getting polluted and there are so many factors which are polluting the water, right? So to increase in the content of harmful substances in water is called water pollution. Like we saw, when the normal components of the air are getting changed, that is leading to air pollution. Same way, when the components or the contents of the water are getting changed and some harmful substances are getting added in the water, that is leading to water pollution again, right? So water pollution has been caused by addition of some harmful substances like fertilizers and pesticides from the farm. Now we know that farmers keep on adding fertilizers and pesticides. Fertilizers, they act as nutrients for the plant, and plants need that because see, like sometimes it happens when our body is not able to synthesize calcium, or our body lacks calcium, we start taking some external supplements, right? We take calcium tablets, mineral tablets, vitamin tablets and all. Same way plants also are been given with this fertilizers so that all the nutrient requirement of the plants are been met. Okay, and after that we have pesticides. Now farmers have to prevent the crop that they are growing, right? So for that reason they will add pesticides on the crops as well. Okay, so water pollution is caused because of the addition of harmful substances like fertilizers and pesticides from the farm. So what's happening, the farmers are releasing this water, like the water from the farm, directly into the water bodies, because of which water pollution is occurring. Then sewage from towns, cities and factories. Now we know towns, cities and factories, they are generating too much of sewage, and those sewages are directly being released in the water bodies, which is ultimately causing air pollution, right? Then disease causing microorganisms, change in the amount of oxygen dissolved in water, or changes in the temperature of the water. Now, because of the sewages, fertilizers, pesticides, water is having a huge impact on it, because of which microorganisms are also getting added in the water, and ultimately if you are eating that water, what will happen? What will happen? That water pollution will keep on exceeding, right? And even we are not only harming our life, but the aquatic animals life is also getting, you can say, harmed in many ways, because we know that fish and other water animals, they are going to breathe in through the water that has been through the oxygen that has been dissolved in the water, right? So the amount of oxygen which is dissolved in water is decreasing day by day because of water pollution, and because of which the temperature of the water is also being changed, and all the aquatic animal as well as our life is at great risk because of all these things, right? So we need to make sure that we are preventing water pollution, and that can be done by stopping all these things, like preventing the water from the farm entering the water bodies. Sewage should not be like dumped into the water bodies. Factories should not directly release the chemicals into the water bodies. So we have to stop doing all such kind of activities so that we can solve the problem that has been caused. Okay. So I want you all to write about water pollution, and also write on how can we prevent water pollution. So after writing about water pollution, the next thing that we need to discuss is with respect to soil, which is again one of the important natural resources that we have, right? But now I want you all to write the causes of water pollution, and even add on to prevention, how exactly we can prevent water pollution. I hope you all are writing about this water pollution. So the next thing that we need to study is about the soil and how exactly the soil formation takes place, right? So see, soil is formed by breaking down of rocks on the surface of the earth, and this breaking of the rock, it can take place by three different processes. It can either be a physical process, chemical process, or it can be a biological process as well. So there are big rocks which are present on the mountain, and those rocks, either following the three processes, either physical, chemical, or biological, they are going to break down into small particles, which we will know it as soil, right? So how exactly it happens is the sun heats the rock during the day, because of the heat that the rock has gained, the rock will expand, and at the night time what will happen suddenly, the rock cools down and contracts. So because there is expansion and contraction which is taking place in the rock, there will be some cracks which will be observed, because of which the rock will like break down into smaller pieces. Okay, so when water enters the crack in the rock and when water freezes, because we have different seasons and there will be one season when the water is going to freeze. So in that case, the rock will expand and will cause the crack in the rock to widen and break into smaller pieces. Okay, so as the water will flow, the flowing water is going to carry those small rock pieces, and these pieces will rub against each other and become smaller and smaller. So if there will be strong wind, that will also break the rock into smaller particles, because water has freezed it. There's continuous expansion and contraction which is taking place in the rock, and even a strong wind can break those rocks into smaller pieces. So the roots of large trees, they grow into the cracks in rocks and break into smaller pieces. Even you might have seen, then some small plants start growing from the rocks part, right? So that can even lead to breaking of the rock into smaller pieces. Then we have lichens which grow on rock. They produce some substances which are going to cause the rock surface to powder and become soil. Okay, so the rock surface will get powdered and it will become soil. So this is how exactly the soil formation is taking place. So it's a huge rock which is going to break down by three different processes. Either it can be physical, chemical, or biological. So it starts from the heating of the sun, which is going to expand the rock, and then when it cools at the night time, it will contract again, because of which there will be cracks in the rock. Now water will get freezed in those cracks, and there will be expansion and contraction again in the rock. Okay, so what will happen, the flowing water is going to carry those rock pieces, and even the rock pieces will rub each other and get into smaller and smaller particles. So now because these pieces are smaller, what will happen, the wind can even take them to other place, right? So strong wind can also break these rocks, and like it can flow from one place to another, and that is how we got, like, the rock will get powdered at the end and we get soil out of it. Okay, so I hope every one of you have understood the concept of formation of soil. I want you all to please go through it everyone, and please write all the important points from the screen. I hope you all are writing about the formation of soil. I'm going to stop after this. Like, we will be studying about the composition of the soil and soil pollution in the next class. But before that, I want you all to write about formation of soil, and you make sure that you have understood how exactly the soil has been formed. Okay? Okay. So I hope you all are done writing with all the points on formation of soil. So I will be continuing with the next part that we have. Okay, I'll be showing you, but I hope you can explain this in detail now, and you don't even need a kind of revision for this. You know how exactly the soil around you has been formed, and you can explain it to yourself in detail, right? So in the next class, I'm going to start with composition of the soil, like what are the different components present in the soil. We'll discuss on that. Then we will be discussing on the soil pollution as well. And after soil pollution, we have soil erosion to discuss. Okay, so soil erosion ke baad we will be discussing on an activity which is on effect of flowing water on the top soil. What are we going to discuss? Effect of flowing water on topsoil. So we'll discuss on this, and after this we will be discussing on the biogeochemical cycle in detail. Okay, so biogeochemical cycles are of four types that we will be discussing on. One is water cycle, the other one is nitrogen cycle, then after that we have carbon cycle, and lastly we have oxygen cycle. So these are the four different cycles which we will be discussing in detail. So I want you all to please go through this slide. So this is how the water cycle looks like. You will be drawing this in detail. Then after that we will be discussing on nitrogen cycle in detail, and the most important thing is the you can say the figures. You should be knowing how to draw them all. Okay. Then after nitrogen cycle we have carbon cycle to discuss. We will be discussing on the carbon cycle as well. So this is how the carbon cycle looks like, and after this carbon cycle we will be discussing on the last cycle that we have, that is oxygen cycle in detail. Okay, and this is how we will be ending up with the lesson, but before that we have the greenhouse effect to discuss. We will be discussing on this greenhouse effect as well, and after this greenhouse effect we have ozone layer to discuss in detail, and then the summary discussion for the lesson. Okay, so we will be doing them all. Then we have few exercise questions. I want each one of you to please go through the exercise question. I hope every one of you are going through the question, because we are going to discuss them at the end of the lesson. So make sure you know the questions very well. So this is how we will be ending up with the whole lesson, natural resources. And I hope like whatever we discussed today in this part of the lesson, natural resources, every one of you have understood the concept and you will be revising it before the next part. Okay, so I will be continuing with the rest of the part for the lesson, natural resources, in the next part. Thank you everyone.